it.
3,
It
2,
just tips me off like away.
1. We are live.
Like a squirrel.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Hello.
A big hello to you. Welcome here to Weird Towers. It's the Monday Club. It's 7 o'clock, and it's great to see you guys. And, well, what an interesting weekend it's been. Model Rail Scotland was on, and I know a lot of you went there. It was really great to see the photographs shared of the Monday Club meetup. An awful lot of YouTubers there, a lot of people who watched the show. It's always great to see, and a huge thank you to David Scott, who has organised that. You are a legend, my friend. I think, actually, can I just float this out there, that David Scott deserves a blue Monday Club badge simply for the work that he puts into organising the meetups. I don't know. I'm looking at the producer for this.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Similarly, actually, can I just say, Flymo Chairman 1 does a great job with moderating.
If they get in touch.
Yeah. So I'm feeling generous tonight, it must be said. So big hello to everybody. We've got Earlstown Engage, Rick Morley, RG Models 86, Scanman, Flint Hills Model Railway, Harry J. Sedgwick, Summer Breeze Model Railway, Peter Jackson Cheerleader. It always goes wild when I start reading the names out. Dion Wollaston, great to see you. Stephen Maxwell, Andy Stewart, Andy Fry's Junction, SHGP Media, Mike Lane TT120. So many names, so many people in. Really great to see you. So we've got the trains running, and you don't experience, you witness, Craig.
For the eagle-eyed amongst you, we have a lovely Rapido Trains SECR Class 1 going past the camera soon, which I've weathered.
Actually, yes. So for all your weathering needs, do speak to Craig Iron Horse Railways. He does a lovely job. But it's a lovely model.
It is. It absolutely is.
When I did the review actually on the Southeastern and Chatham Railway Austerity Grey one, I did say at the time there's some really great innovations in that model, and I'm really, really happy to be able to take this off Craig's hands, and it will be going.
We've done a trade, not because I don't like Rapido or because I don't like the model. I'm more of a diesel guy, but I think I have to say, it's probably one of Rapido's best examples of the model. It really is.
Ben Tullett says, Jenny, have you made sure you've got adequate ventilation in the loft? Well, we made sure that we told him to stand outside until everything had equalised.
All I'm going to say is when it dries, it's going to itch. Simple as that.
Come on, this is a family show. Behave yourself. So anyway, right, Model Rail Scotland. A lot of people getting some great bargains there, but that is not what you tuned in for. I'm sure we've got a big audience. Do please tickle that like button, consider sharing and subscribing if you've not already done so. But of course, big news last week. Broke on, I think it was Thursday, that Accurascale has acquired Heljan. That's how it was phrased in the press release. Now, I know that there's been different phraseology used, but I'm going off the original press release that Heljan acquired. No, that would be
Accurascale.
Accurascale acquired Heljan. And it's definitely caused a lot of people to be talking about this. So huge changes in the model railway world. Just for anybody who has been living in a box somewhere under the stairs and hasn't heard. So what's happened is Heljan, the assets, what I've been told, the assets, so that would be things like tooling and the models, the IP, the name, have been bought by Accurascale, and the staff, which would be Kim, and I'm really sorry, Kim, I honestly, I don't want to even try and pronounce your surname. It's probably really easy. Well, it will be really easy for you, but I'd only make a hash of it. So Kim, who you may have recognised at shows, plus Ben Jones from Heljan, are now part of the Accurascale family. Now, there's been so many questions being asked online. My thoughts about this are probably that Accurascale and the Heljan have been a little bit overwhelmed. I think it's really, really fired up over the weekend. So I can completely sympathise that it must be quite stressful to field the same 24 questions multiple times in different places on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And if anywhere has opinions, I think the internet
The internet has an opinion.
Yeah, I wonder if the internet has an opinion. Anyway, so that's what's been going on. And so what have we got for you in today's show? Well, I know a lot of people will have a lot of questions about this. And we've got a retailer coming on. You'll have seen the Support Your Local Model Shop campaign.
Absolutely.
And this is amazing to see. I can't remember the last time that so many retailers kind of got together.
I don't think it's
with a common thing. And even with some of the charity things, I've not seen this level of different model rail shops.
Banding together. It's never, I've never seen this happen before, ever.
Yeah. And I think it's a great thing, and we often speak here about supporting your local retailer. Use them or lose them.
Absolutely.
Now, I put out a video over the weekend. Silly me. A lot of other people did. I know Sam's Trains has had a video out. Little Wicket has had a video out. So many other people. Some reprobate.
I did too.
Yeah,
I'm special.
Yeah. So, just checking on the time, I want to address, there was a couple of things I got pulled up on about my video, and I clearly marked it as an opinion piece, an editorial, as you will, because I knew that this was going to be a little bit of a minefield. So I thought, you know, if I didn't say anything, people would wonder why. So I put out a little video, and I went through my thoughts about this.
A little bit damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I understand that for, certainly for Heljan, doing nothing was presumably just not an option. Although in the video that Accurascale and Heljan put out when the announcement was first made, I believe it was Ben Jones actually did say categorically that Heljan were not in any financial difficulty. So I know he was very clear on that.
You know about the Accurascale announcement?
Which one?
The initial video they made.
Yeah.
I think it was Richard Watson that said it in the video.
I think Richard Watson said it, and I think Ben Jones confirmed it.
Yeah.
But I did come into for some criticism. I will address this. I came into some criticism from Heljan for, in my personal opinion assessment, I said that, you know, stocks in the warehouse that weren't selling, I felt that
I'm going to jump in there.
What?
When I edited that video, I did not feel like you were talking about Heljan. I felt that...
I was actually talking about Hornby 00.
Exactly.
I drew parallels when Hornby 00 went under. So, different state of affairs. Heljan did not go under. Heljan were financially absolutely fine. But the parallels are, back then, Hornby 00 taken over by Triang, Lyons Brothers. And back then, some of the stocks that were at Binns Road, the example I think I gave, I'm not sure that I actually named it, but the Super Detail sleeping car, they had 10,500 approximately in stock. And it took Norman Hatton 30 years to sell those. And what I was trying to get at is that having stocks in your warehouse that aren't selling, you know, market research, you would have thought would have said, actually, maybe there's not demand, maybe we shouldn't make as many, maybe we shouldn't make this particular model right now. And that was what I was getting at. So I know I have asked Heljan on and they declined. I have asked Accurascale on and they've also declined. So I did give both an opportunity to put their side of things. Unfortunately, they didn't wish to come on the stream to put their side of things on. But a little bit upset that Ben Jones thought I was having a go at him. That's not the case. And, you know, I want to put that out there. I think Ben Jones is a great guy. I've worked with him with, you know, reviewing models, getting press releases off him for all the time he's been at Heljan, and he's been an absolutely stand-up guy. Couldn't speak more highly of him. And before that, when he was the editor of Model Rail, you know, I've got the greatest respect for him because he is the editor who gave me my first break in the model railway press by taking a chance on me with my first ever model railway article and publishing that on the pages of Model Rail. And I'm eternally grateful for that. So I didn't want him to think I was having a go at him. That is not what that video was about. It was merely saying that it just felt that somewhere along the line, having a lot of stock that wasn't selling in a warehouse, you know, maybe things could have been done to stop that, is what I was trying to get at. So, anywho, let's roll VT. I caught you off guard there.
Yeah, can I just say one thing first?
We don't have a VT.
We don't. We have to say thank you to Clark Railworks, who sponsored us for many years now.
Yes. Unfortunately, Clark Railworks have reassessed their sponsorship, and we'd like to thank them greatly for an amazing period of support from them, and it's really, really helped. Unfortunately, today we learned that they're reassessing their promotional way forward. So, unfortunately,
it's 1st of April coming up this week.
Yeah,
so,
end of the month.
And well, no, start of a new financial year. They've decided to try something different.
But
we
look,
wish them all the best.
Absolutely, and as we always say, the door is always open if they want to work with us in the future. And again, can't speak more highly of Ellis Clark Trains as well. They've been very, very supportive, and some amazing models. Over the years, they've won so many of our Model of the Year certificates, and deservedly so. So a huge thank you to them. Can I
roll BT. Welcome to the Monday Club, your online model rail club for all the news, gossip, layout tours and more, with your host, broadcaster and model maker, Jennifer Kirk. And we're back.
Welcome back. So we're going to be bringing on our first guest tonight. We've got a retailer on, and really, really grateful they've come on to talk to us, principally about the Support Your Local Model Shop campaign and why local model shops are really important. So just very quickly, I'm going to have a quick look through the comments. I think there are a few questions coming in about Accurascale. It's why we really thought it would have been great to get Accurascale.
If they could have come on and just answered the questions, it would have been really useful. But they've made their decision. We've got to.
No, that's fine. That's fine. There's never any obligation. Malco Blues says Norman Hatton bought all the surplus stock. He told me once that he was running in front of the JCB collecting the models off the factory floor. He kept them in 2 large steel containers. I remember talking to him in the 90s, and he was filling the lofts of Friends with Hornby 00 just to find storage space for it. He took a big chance on that, but it took him 30 years to clear it, which shows you how overstocked Hornby 00 were.
Films Model Railway wants to know where you get Heljan space from now.
I've seen a lot of people asking about this. Now, I don't know for certain, and I'm sure that Heljan, I would hope Heljan have posted this somewhere. I think it's definitely one of the important questions. But availability of spare parts and warranty. So that would have been one of the questions that I would have had for Accurascale and Heljan had they come on. We can't really answer that, to be honest with you, but that is something to put to Accurascale and Heljan and see what they have to say about that. So we're going to be getting our first guest on.
That's the chat.
Yeah, I know that's the chat. No, this is the internet. It's in the box. So we're going to get our first guest on, and this is a big retailer. You will have seen them at a number of different shows. So we're just going to be calling them on. We've got to put the old headphones on.
And this week I can get involved because I've got headphones.
Yeah, we've got a splitter and a set of headphones. So this is going to be Gareth from Trains for You in Peterborough. So we're just waiting for it to connect. I think this is first time on this system for him. We did do a test call earlier on. But for those of you who were at Model Rail Scotland, there were some really great models on display. And actually, one of the highlights for me, and I'll say this, the U1 from Heljan. really did look absolutely great.
Can you guys hear it ringing?
Yes, we can hear it ringing. And definitely Heljan have shared a video of that. I did ask and was told that is a livery sample. Try disconnecting and reconnecting.
Yeah, I think it's...
Turn it off and then on again.
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know if there's an issue at Gareth's end. Oh, I think we've connected. Right.
Hello.
So hello to you, Gareth. Great to see you. We thought we'd lost you there for a moment.
No.
We honestly thought that your phone would start ringing the moment we said we had Gareth from Trains for You on. But
remember that on Noel's house party? Every single time he went to a house, someone would forward it.
Yes. So anyway, look, Gareth from Trains for You in Peterborough, thank you so much for coming on, and it's really great to speak to you. I know we've seen you at a lot of shows. You're definitely a fixture at a lot of the shows. You do a lot of brand new stuff, a lot of second hand. I made out like a bandit off your stand at the Warnerley show. It must admit, I got some great bargains there. Always worth a rummage. But tell us a little bit about Trains for You, where you are, what exactly you do, and what your specialist areas are.
Sure. So I started Trains for You coming up to 22 years ago now, in 2004, with my father, Steve. Basically, he kind of grew the business whilst I maintained a full-time career. But recently, in the last 18 months, 2 years, I'm now working here full-time. This is my full-time job. This is my livelihood. And that of my family. My wife works for the company as well. My daughter works here on weekends. We started off primarily, well, as the name would suggest, selling trains. But we've grown to be much more than that now. We are a general model shop. We sell plastic kits, we sell Warhammer, we sell paint, we sell tools. We have a vast range of second hand, in addition to all of the model railway stuff that you see behind me here. And we've grown that steadily and consistently over the last 2 decades, serving the Peterborough community and beyond. I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue for a lot longer in the future.
Absolutely, and in terms of the model rail market, I know a lot of people always say, it's that the hobby is in decline. From a retailer's perspective, how are you finding the hobby? Is it buoyant? Is it changing? How is it changing? Are you able to adapt to the changes?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say the hobby's in decline. I think actually in the last few years we've seen an explosion in the amount of product that's become available. There's so many new manufacturers, and there's certainly a lot of product on the marketplace. But I think it's fair to say I see fewer younger people. I tend to see a lot more younger people at shows. But I think the common argument is about accessibility and the price of new models and things like that. But we offer a really good selection of good priced second hand, which is where I started when I started my model railway. I did a long time before I had a new locomotive in my collection. And I think I don't think that the hobby is in decline. I think we've seen a bit of a renaissance, in fact, over the last sort of 10 years or so. Yeah. And I think to say it's in decline would be disingenuous.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always say to people is it's almost like we've never had it so good in terms of the range of models.
Spoiled for choice, really.
Yeah, and I see the really full shelves behind you. Is it sometimes difficulty to find space for all the different products that are on the market?
Yeah, I mean, this is my 00 display cabinet as well. This is one half of it. I've got over 400 locomotives in here, different ones. So sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge to find a bit of space.
And what sort of age bracket are we looking at? Are you finding that it's getting older or about the same in terms of people that you see as customers?
I think it stays about the same. I know people say, kids aren't interested. But I think what you find is, and it was the same with me, is that when you're younger, you find different things. You're interested in railways for a while, and then you kind of go off and you find girls or boys or alcohol or and things like that for a while. And what you tend to find is that a lot of the people who are actually coming into the hobby are in their 30s and 40s, and they're the kids who've got the money. They've got some disposable income, and every I won't say every day, but most days someone will come in saying, I want to start a model railway. I've always wanted one since I was a kid. And it tends to be someone who's in their 30s or 40s or has recently retired, rather than youngsters. But what you find then is that those people have children of their own, and they introduce them to the hobby, even if it's a small amount, even if it's just a taste.
Yeah.
When they're older, they say, "Oh yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. I feel like doing that. Now I've got some money," and I think that's where the hobby really starts, is when people have disposable income to build what they want, to build their railway.
Absolutely, and we've seen a lot online over the last few days of the support your local model shop. And how do you feel about this? I mean, how important is it to support local model shops?
I think it's vital. I mean, I would say that. Obviously, I'm biased. It's my livelihood.
Yeah.
But you can't necessarily rely on buying things online. There's something to be said for seeing the product in your hands or testing it and checking something. Especially if you're spending £300 on a locomotive, you want to make sure that all the bits are attached, that it's working, that it's running to your standards and specifications. And I can do that. I can show customers the different variations in models, and actually introduce customers to brands and manufacturers they would never have heard of or considered previously. You'd be astonished at the number of people that walk in this shop who have never heard of even Bachmann or Heljan or Accurascale or Clavalex or Daypol. They know Hornby. Everybody knows Hornby.
Yeah.
But until they see it for themselves, and I get people saying, "Oh, I think I'll just stick with a Hornby 66." And I'm saying, "Well, why don't you look at the alternatives? See, we'll test run them. You can see the lights and hear the sounds, and you just can't do that really online." And a lot of these people, they're not necessarily online, or when they're online, they're not looking at model railways. And this is the shop window. This is their exposure, and I send them away with a leaflet to go to a show which they otherwise wouldn't have gone to. So, and I do my bit, not just to try and make a bit of money to keep a roof over my head, but also to try and grow the hobby, to try and encourage the people that walk in the door to look at alternatives and to go to the shows and to get involved and to really enjoy the hobby.
I mean, one of the things that I've found going to local model shops is often you see products and you find things that you didn't even necessarily know existed. And it can be quite inspirational for your own modelling journey, because you'll go in and you'll see something and it kind of fires off the imagination. It's like, I could do X, Y, and Z with that. And it's certainly, it's how I found, for example, the Woodland Scenics range. You don't just accidentally find it when browsing necessarily, but when you go into a shop, these things are there and you can start to see how you can use that. And often, like you say, the shop owner is able to advise and say, well, actually, if you're wanting to do this effect, maybe this product would work well for you. Or, even advise people, actually that product won't do what you want, but this product will. And I guess that's something you can't really get with an online-only experience.
You're never going to get that same level of cross-pollination, are you? I've lost count of the amount of times I've gone into a local model shop for, say, for example, a Bachmann Class 37, and I've been looking in the cabinet and then gone, what's that?
Yeah.
What's that? And then all of a sudden I've spent 600 quid.
Yeah.
And it's something I didn't want at the start of the journey, but there we are. And you cannot really get that online. You need
No, and a classic one that happens regularly with me is I'll get a customer come in, what's this DCC all about then? And I'll stick a couple of engines on the track and have them just slowly moving apart in different directions. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I turn the sounds on and they're like, this is what, and that's that kind of reaction that they don't know. A lot of the time, new people into this hobby don't actually know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And to have that explained to them and shown, and see their faces light up when they see it is just fantastic.
Because you are very much the custodian, as it were, in terms of the knowledge about what the products are. Like I said, people might not necessarily know which particular brand is or isn't until they speak to you about it. And it's important to have that knowledge, and there's only so much information you can fit on the webpage.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for all retailers, obviously, but I love it. This is my hobby, I know a lot of people building the model railway is their hobby. When I was 10 years old, I wanted a model shop. This is my hobby and this is my dream. So to be able to live that dream and to see someone walk in the door and say, wow, you know, that just really just makes it for me, and that's what I love about this. So you can understand that I'm passionate about not just the shop but the hobby as well, and I want it to be successful because I want it to not just to put a roof over my head, but to really just encourage people in the hobby and see that people's faces light up when they walk in the door.
And do you find that there's a difference in people's shopping baskets between what they might buy when they're just looking through the website as opposed to when they come into the shop? I mean, do they tend to buy a more varied basket in the shop compared to online?
Absolutely. I mean, I sell enough paint to paint the Forth Bridge every year. It's incredible. Yeah, I think online tends to be rolling stock.
Yeah.
Not 95% of what I said online is rolling stock.
Yeah.
Track pins, track accessories, sealing materials, very, very little.
Yeah.
That's what people really, they fill their baskets with when they come in.
And
the rolling stock is a, if someone's buying an engine, then that's a big ticket purchase.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you know, we've heard with the news with Accurascale and Heljan. I know everybody's talking about it. We've got to talk a little bit about this. How has that been for you? I mean, I can see you've got Heljan items in the cabinet behind you. How has what's happened affected you?
So it's difficult because despite conflicting reports, I didn't know about this until everybody else did.
Yeah.
I mean, on Thursday morning, I was in a shed dismantling somebody's layout, you know, taking away a second-hand collection, and I got a notification from my shop manager who said, oh, "Have you seen the news?" What news? I didn't have an internet connection. I was in the middle of a village in Cambridgeshire somewhere. But he said, Accurascale have bought Heljan. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then he said, and it's all going to be direct sales only. And I thought, right, okay, I'm gonna just wait and see for myself, and I'll get back to the shop. So I got back to the shop and had a look and saw the announcement, and that was the first I knew about it. So in terms of how that affects me, it's difficult to know right now because I don't know really what's going on. And I still don't really know what's going on. I've had a couple of emails, you know, generic emails that say that the brand is now part of the Accurascale family, that there's the products are going to be split between direct sales and some are going to be brought into the Accurascale range and made available to retail, and that the Accurascale range itself is going to continue being available to retailers. But beyond that, there's nothing. So I don't know what that means in terms of spare support or warranty or anything. I'd welcome that information very much because I'm being asked that by my customers. And I think the other big impact has really been the immediate fire sale of stock and the effect that's had on the value of my stock. Now, I'm sure most people are aware, but everything I have on these shelves behind me and across the shop is bought and paid for. It's mine. It's my money that I've spent and invested in, and the risk that I've taken in getting that product. And I've seen an immediate devaluation in the value of that Heljan stock. By some cases, it's 40% less than what I paid for it, which is a significant amount of money when you consider.
Because I mean, I'm presuming it's not just what's in the cabinet behind you. You've also got duplicates of a lot of models in the stock room as well. Absolutely,
I do. I mean, just to put it into perspective, I've got over 120 different Heljan locomotives in stock, different ones. Never mind the depth of that stock.
Yeah, so a lot of those will have duplicates as well on top of that.
Yeah, so the problem there is that obviously customers expect now a much lower price. I would have to sell at a loss, and basically to cover those losses, I've got to sell a lot of tins of paint.
Yes.
You see, the thing is, when I buy locomotives, and like I said, I've got over 400 00 locomotives in this cabinet. that is an investment on my part to bring that range to the viewing public who come in my door. I don't make a huge margin on these locomotives. You'll be well aware there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah.
And I've invested that money to give that to make that product available. And if that's suddenly devalued, I then have to look at how many engines do I have to sell to make up that loss.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of money in the end of the day. And I know everybody's after a bargain and everybody wants it. A lot of people would like the cheapest price.
Yeah.
But it does hurt my business, and it does make it harder for me to trade in general and to offer all of the other services and all of the other products that I do as a retailer. So that's the effect that particular announcement has had. And as I say, it would be nice to have some more clarity in what's happening.
I take it then you've not been told anything about, for example, warranty on. I mean, I get the stock that's behind you. It's brand new stock. I mean, anybody who buys that is expecting the warranty. Have you had any communication about how you deal with that at all?
So first and foremost, as a retailer, if I sell you something, it's up to me to make sure that product is of suitable quality. And if it's not, it's up to me to make sure that that's sorted out. And I would continue to do that to the best of my abilities. And if it comes to it, if I can't repair it here, if I can't maintain that product for you, you get a refund. But I don't know what's happening with the warranty situation at all. If the warranty situation is no longer applicable, then that's my risk that I have to take. It's now on me to manage that. But the simple answer is, I at this point in time, I just don't know. So it'd be nice to
I know there's the phone screen's gone blank now, but I did just see a statement from Gagemaster saying that spares would be made available for as long as they've got supplies of them. So I'm guessing Gagemaster has some spares in stock that they've historically been able to supply, but I'm not clear. I'm just looking through the statement here. It just says, I'm just having a look. We will continue to supply the spare parts for Heljan items manufactured prior to 2026, in brackets, if we have them, while stocks last. So I don't know whether you'd have to buy them as spare parts or whether that's a warranty. I just have to quickly say as well, Stephen McClay, thank you so much. Very kindly donated $2 New Zealand on the super chat, so thank you so much for your generosity. But going back to that's the statement that I've got in front of me from Gagemaster, but it doesn't elaborate on that.
So my understanding is that Gagemaster found out at the same time. I don't know for certain, but that's my understanding.
I have seen a statement online from Gagemaster that suggested that may well be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to anything you want to ask?
Yeah,
you've been very quiet.
I've just been listening and being wired not to interrupt you or Gareth. I have a tendency to get excited and verbally vomit.
He's very restrained
from time to time. But how do you feel seeing throughout Monday and Friday your competitors all sort of banding together and saying, look, support smaller retailers, and you've got big retailers like Wales and Sheffield and TMC saying support the smaller guys too. How does that make you feel?
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
That's why I asked that. Sorry.
I was made aware. I was made aware of this by Witness Model Centre. So they forwarded the message on to me. I had no part in crafting the message. I think that was put together by a handful of the larger retailers. And at that point, a couple of hours previously, I'd already put out my own statement about what's happening, and that I didn't know the answers. And that I hope that people will continue to purchase from us. But on the whole, I'm not going to speak for the whole of the community, the retail community. I can't speak for the whole of the retail community.
I understand.
But it's a message that really resonated. I think it's one that it's like any local business, like your local butcher or your local greengrocer. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Now, yes, like I say, it's my livelihood. I'm going to do my best to defend it. But it's not just. It's more than that. It's my passion as well. It's my. Like I said, I'm living my dream, and I want to continue sharing that with as many people as I can for as long as I can. And in order to do that, I need people to come in the door and spend money with me.
Absolutely.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with reminding people of the fact that we're here.
And I guess as well, there's an element as well. It's like an ecosystem. So you're not only supporting customers with what they're looking to buy and providing them with that storefront where they can browse and see products that maybe they didn't even know about. But also you're the ecosystem. You're where a lot of companies have their outlet. I'm thinking particularly like Pico, for example, for track needs. They rely on the bricks and mortar retailers to be able to sell those. The same with Bachmann; they will only supply to bricks and mortar retailers, and as such, I know people talk about the big box shifters, but actually, fundamentally at heart, they're local model shops in Sheffield, in Goathland, or down in Guildford themselves. And you're the conduit for so many other people to make their livelihood as well. When you go down the tree, people like War World Scenics, Evergreen, Humbrol, all of these other companies are also reliant on the model shops to make people aware that their products exist and give them a conduit to be able to buy them.
There's more than that. We advertise in the magazines. If we don't exist, that advertising disappears.
Yes.
Where the magazines get their money from.
Where do the shows?
The same with shows.
Yes.
I go to about a dozen shows a year. I invest quite a lot of money in those shows. Some of them cost more than others. Some of them, the bigger shows, is a significant amount of money to put a stand-up in one. Yes. And that money is what pays for those shows to happen. The shows don't survive on ticket sales.
No.
They need trade support in order to pay for the layouts that you see.
Yes.
So without the traders, without the retailers, those shows, the people that are online arguing, saying, "Oh, I just get my stuff at shows and online."
Yeah.
Well, you're going to lose the shows if you don't have the shops.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So that you've got to consider that, and it's not we're not begging people. We're just reminding people we're here. We are part of the wider community. We do put a lot of effort, and we put our heart and souls into this to provide you with this range of items and this stock. And we just hope that you come in the door and spend a few pennies with us, really.
Absolutely. And going forward, all we can say to people is, look, do support your local model shops, use them or lose them. And we've all seen the decline of the high street. We don't want the same to happen to model shops, because I think the hobby will be so much poorer without it. I mean, not just by having this storefront where you can browse products and learn about products that you didn't know exist, but like you say as well, the knock-on effect, not having retailers at shows suddenly makes a lot of shows unviable, and then we lose shows as well.
That also has an effect on the social aspect of it. Yeah.
Exactly, the social aspect of it. Hobbies are incredibly good for mental health. This is really, really important. And we can only encourage people, support your local model shop. And if you buy mail order, I know a lot of people say, well, actually, I live a long, long way from any model shops. When you buy mail order from a model shop, you're still supporting somebody's local model shop.
Absolutely.
We really, really hope that going forward, that we'll see people realise this and put more effort into supporting their retailers. But one final question before I go, actually, I wanted to ask, with the models being sold direct from Heljan at a very cheap price, are you seeing that that's depressed sales of other brands where people have gone, well, actually, I won't buy a Bachmann 47 because I can buy a Heljan 47 for less, or I'm not going to buy this model because right now I can get this model for less. Have you seen any sign that maybe it's having unintended consequences that way?
I think it's a bit too soon. I mean, we don't even open we're closed on Mondays, so there's only been 3 trading days. It's not really soon enough to tell.
I understand. But look, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us. And look, I just hope that questions that everybody has do get answered. And I just want people to understand that retailers are often in the same position that the customers are asking questions, and it would be nice to get answers to some of the questions, if only for peace of mind. We've touched on warranty repairs, we've touched on other things like that, just to reach out to retailers so that retailers themselves can provide the service of passing this information on to their customers, a lot of which aren't in the model railway bubble. And I think it's very, very it's almost like the Westminster bubble. When you're very, very in touch with what's going on in the model railway world, it's easy to forget that actually a lot of people aren't on the internet. They're not avidly devouring the magazines and may not at this stage even necessarily know what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, what do those people do when the local model shop goes?
Exactly.
What do they do?
So the local model shops, they're the lifeline to the people who aren't online, who aren't in all the Facebook groups, and who rely on the model shops to get the information. But look, thank you so much for coming on. We wish you absolutely well, and hopefully we'll speak again. But look, you take care and have a great Monday night evening. So that's Gareth from Trains For You in Peterborough. And you can find their website online. And also, if you're in the Peterborough area, really, really important, do pop in, have a browse. You might find a product that you didn't even know existed that will be absolutely perfect for your modelling needs. And browse the second hand as well. There's always some gems. I think I picked up one of the Class 08 shunters, I think it was, at Warnerley, that I'd been looking for years. So they are out there, and it was a great price. So thank you so much for coming on. So there we go. It's always great to hear from a retailer's perspective, and definitely the support your local model shops campaign.
We've got to keep them going.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to jump in now, babe.
Yeah. So we have. It's very difficult for us to keep up with the comments whilst we're doing the interview. Yeah. So
we've had a lot of comments. There's a couple of people in the chat that are saying things like, under the law, this, that, and the other. We don't need barracks room lawyering. I know that sounds bad, and some of you might have qualifications or knowledge or expertise, but we can't confirm that.
Yeah, what we would like to encourage is not to speculate. I think it's very easy for people to say, like, oh, well, such and such says, or my friend down the pub says.
Like what we've had in the chat, some people saying that Gauge Master due on the 19th, and that they're saying that on their website. They're not. I've looked. They're not saying that on their website. Yeah. There's nothing there about that.
If you don't know it's true, don't say it.
Yeah. As they say in Dragnet, just the facts, man.
Yeah. The last thing we want is for someone to say something that gets them in trouble.
Yeah.
We're only about the facts. That's all we're doing. This is tonight, and this is why I'm a bit saddened. Well, rather, more than a bit saddened that Accurascale or Heljan haven't come on to say what it is from their point of view. That would have been great for sorting this all out.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is get clarity.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you, Zoe. I think it's one of the reasons I did extend an invite to both Heljan and Accurascale. They declined to come on.
I think at this point, that's all that anyone's asking for, really.
It would have been a great opportunity. They could have answered direct a lot of these questions. And I think what's important is to get rid of speculation.
Exactly.
I think that's where
I've seen too much speculation online, and it's like Chinese whispers.
They've not had any information, so of course the Chinese whispers start. Of course, the weird speculation sets in.
Yeah, but hopefully, I'm pretty certain there'll be somebody from Accurascale watching and taking notes about questions people have had. So Hopefully, if people keep an eye on the Accurascale and the Heljan Facebook sites, is a good place to go. And just see if they're able to address any of the questions you have. Go to the source. Don't just see what the hearsay is. Go to the source and ask them. They will be able to tell you what is really happening.
Yeah. And
so
we do have another point of view coming on, if I can now load up Teams.
Yeah.
Teams!
So a lot of people thanking Gareth. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. A lot of satisfied customers as well. It's definitely a model shop that I've heard some really great things from people about.
Chinese whispers aren't as good as cavalry whispers.
Railway Modeler says it's Richard watching at New Junction.
Probably. But we can't say. We don't know.
No. I don't want to speculate.
Yeah.
Skipsy Train says, good evening, Jenny. Good evening, Zoe. Good evening, Craig. I hope you're all well. Absolutely. We're doing absolutely fine here. Devon George 85 says, at the end of the day, they're both private businesses and it's entirely up to them how they wish to operate. Yeah, and that's it. Nobody's saying that, like...
no one's saying that they have to share all their dealings.
No.
What we're saying is that it would have been nice if this could have been clarified so that people are getting
people are putting in the like, evening ritual. Like, I haven't seen a post from him yet. So, Mark Wilson taking time out from waxing the DeLorean. Nice to hear. In hindsight, if Heljan had a lower RRP, the retailers wouldn't have had to discount the models so heavily. So maybe the initial price point was incorrectly
That's
set.
not necessarily true, though, is it? You know,
I mean. Right, can I just put this out there that some of my favourite models actually are Heljan, and let's not just. Oh, sorry, the Queen Mary.
I'm sorry, I've got a lot of issues at the moment. I'm ill.
More issues than the times. But no, can I just say actually some of my favourite models are Heljan. Now the Class 07 shunter.
Yeah.
That is a great model. The Class 02 shunter, I've said this so many times, and I'm not making this up. I'm not, trying to blow smoke up manufacturers' bottoms.
Why not?
The Class 02 shunter is, in my opinion, the best ready-to-run diesel outline model that anybody has made. And, when that appeared ready to run, I was so happy to acquire one, and it has been a faultless performer. But it's not just that. The Class 05 shunter, I've often said this, the Class 05 shunter has one of the best mechanisms for smooth running of any model out there on the market. And the the Heljan 25, now, and this is something we talked about before we came on air, there seems to have been an element of weight equals premium, and if a model doesn't weigh enough, that somehow it's a poor model. Well, actually, I know that the Heljan 25, some people said, oh, it's not as good as the back one because it's lighter. But actually, it doesn't need that weight. Things don't need to have the weight of depleted uranium.
A bit of weight is good, but...
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying no weight, but actually, the Heljan 25, yes, it weighs less than the Bachmann 25, but it doesn't impede its performance. And I really like the Heljan 25s.
You like a rat?
I do. I've got a lot of Bachmann ones. I've got a lot of Heljan ones. They sit well together. The Heljan one does hold its own, and I think it is a great model. And it must be said that there's plenty of space inside. If you want to do a sound installation, stay alive, nice big speaker. The Heljan model actually gives you plenty of space to do that. And I think it's a great model. I also like the Class 28, the Kobo. Yeah, I've got one of the original releases from Hatton's.
Weird little thing, that, isn't it?
And there's some of the little 060 locomotives. The 1366. There's the pannier one with the outside valve gear. Again, I've heard some people say they didn't like that model for whatever reason. All I can say is the one that I've got, and I think that's the one that I reviewed. And before anybody goes, oh, well, that's a pre-approved review sample. No, I actually bought that from a shop. So that's like mystery shopper, and mine has been absolutely faultless.
Yeah, everything I review is usually bought. So
yeah, they don't send you anything. You're not on the Christmas card list. So just putting that out there. Right. So just looking through the comments. Yeah, David Scott. We I don't know if you were in at the start. We'd like to send you a blue badge for all of the really great work you do, organising the Monday Club meetups, and also to say to people. Oh, I forgot to mention to Gareth. We need to send Gareth a blue badge.
I'm sure I can work that out.
You get the blue badge of Ultimate Monday Club Zenness only by being on the show or being an amazing helper to the channel. So obviously, Flymo Chairman 1, we do want to give you one.
Can I just say, Skipsy Trains, thank you very much for emailing. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much.
And actually, Skipsy Train says, I quite like the Heljan 33s and 86s. Great run.
I've got a West Coast Railways 33. It's the lights don't work on it for some reason, but apart from that, it's a lovely little model.
I've actually got one of the Gauge Master collection ones from a while back, 33008 factory weathering. And that and the Class 27, I got 27001. I actually really like the factory weathering.
No, you want weathering from an independent person.
No, but if like me, you don't like to sully your model with aftermarket weathering.
Actually, I will say this, that factory weathering now is actually a great base for adding on weathering.
Oh, right, so you'd actually recommend not necessarily having the clean locomotive.
Yeah, if you're going to get it weathered, get the factory weathered version, and then you can, a talented weathering artist can build on
we
that.
should have James Pets on.
Ah, right, sorry, we're just sort of chatting away.
A stranger in the camp. Let me grab my
so,
and the entire thing is just... Ah, there we are. There we go. Right, we're
so,
there.
Hello, James.
Can you hear us, James Pets?
I can indeed, yes. Hello, good evening.
He's even got the office green, like,
You've got
gentleman's sofa leather thing. That's fantastic.
You've got the chair that looks like it belongs in a gentleman's club.
Absolutely.
And
me some cigars.
And it's James Pets, the most impeccably dressed railway modeller out there. Of course,
we have checked.
So, James Pets, you're on first and foremost as a modeller yourself. I know that we're probably going to ask you some questions. And what we have to say is that your day job, you are a barrister, but barristers are very specialised. So your specialist area is tort law, I believe. So you're not giving legal advice tonight at all. This is an interpretation from somebody who's familiar with the nuances of how law works, rather than being an expert in an area that we might talk about. Have I got that right?
Mostly, it's not so much tort law. I tend to do chancery and commercial. The one thing I don't know much about is competition law, which I believe touches on one of the areas that you're potentially going to ask me about.
Right.
But yes, I'm not giving legal advice. This is a general overview of how the law in this area works, rather than advice to any particular person.
Absolutely. But first of all, tell us a little bit about your own modeller, because you are, I think, primarily an N-gauge modeller. Am I right in thinking this?
Yes, I like N-gauge because I can fit a lot in and it's small. So I do have some 4mm stuff as well. There's a club layout that I work on. It was at Alexandra Palace last weekend, or weekend before last now, called Orchard Wharf. That's an EM-gauge layout. Right. And there's a 00 layout I'm building in my shed. But the main thing that I work on is N-gauge, a little micro layout, several bigger layouts that are in various stages of planning. I have been described as the king of too many projects. I have an awful lot of stuff. I like automation and timetables, and maybe I can come on as a guest and talk about the timetable automation system one day, but that's a topic for a different time, I think.
Do you have a significant pile of shame, James?
So what's a significant pile of shame?
Well, what do you think I mean, James?
I think you might mean a pile of things that I have yet to do that perhaps ought to be done at some point. If that is the question, the answer is yes.
Good man.
Right. So, sorry, I mean, I talk about naivety. I thought it's like, why is it? It's not good. Don't talk about gentleman's literature here. One of the things that as we've seen, to sort of car crash into a few of the things that we just wanted to ask a little bit about, and again, prefixing this with this is not legal advice. And whilst you are a barrister, you are not giving legal advice. This is not your specialised area of law, and anybody who wishes to get legal advice needs to go and find a legal specialist who specialises in this area. But we were just wondering about the nuances that we've seen between some of the press releases, some of the videos, between buying a company and buying the company's assets, the name, and having the workers to come work for you. I don't. Is this something
Yes.
which you are able to provide any insight on what the difference is, and the implications of the interpretation?
Yes. Well, let's go back to first principles and ask ourselves, what is a company? And this goes a long way back to the days of canals. So transport history is part of this in its own unique way, where before the canal age, there were no such things as what we now call limited companies. They were just people, and people could enter into business on their own behalf or as partners, and in any event, as you'd expect in the normal arrangement of things, if you make a contract in your own name, you are liable on that contract, even if you can't afford to pay it, and you might be made bankrupt, and before 1869 you could be sent to prison if you didn't pay your debts. But in the 18th century, there were people wanted to build canals. The Duke of Bridgewater had built a successful canal, but if he weren't a duke of something, then being able to build a successful canal required an awful lot of money.
Yes.
And very few individual people had enough money to do that. So they had to be able to raise money from lots and lots of different people in order to be able to make the canal work. And so all those people had to be owners of the canal, but it's impractical to have thousands and thousands of people being able directly to control the canal. That just wouldn't work. So what was invented was what was then called the joint stock company, where people would buy shares in the ownership of this joint stock company, and it would be run not by all the people who owned it, but by some directors who were elected by the shareholders to do the work for them of running the company. So the shareholders own the company, the directors run the company. The directors might and usually are themselves shareholders, but that is not necessarily the case.
Right.
The next important principle is that the company is a separate legal personality.
Right.
So far as the law is concerned, it is a distinct person, just as distinct as you are from me.
Right.
And just as it is not its directors. So it has what is described as limited liability. And if you see the name limited or LTD dot after a company name, that means that it is a limited liability company. And that is referring to this concept of limited liability, which is that even if you are a shareholder, in other words, an owner of a company or a director of the company, then you are not liable for the company's debts. You might be personally liable for things you personally have done, such as commit fraud, which is relatively narrowly defined. You have to have been dishonest. But you're not liable for the company's debts, even if it was you who were running the company.
Right.
The company is responsible for all its own debts. The company, if it doesn't have enough assets to meet its liabilities, is insolvent. And there are very particular and quite detailed processes for winding up an insolvent company, which can involve, in certain cases, we may touch on this in a bit more detail in a moment, unpicking transactions that the court has found to be ones that ought not to have taken place. That can get quite complex and is an area of frequent litigation in the courts. But the principal starting point is that a company is separate from its members and separate from its directors. So if one company buys another company, what happens is that the one company becomes the shareholder in another company. So you still have that separation. And that's not quite the same as a merger. We'll come on to that in a moment because that isn't what's happened here. It just means that one company is put into position of a shareholder of another company. The merger is a slightly separate thing, and that tends to be a bit more specialist. You tend to get the larger companies doing that, where you effectively get the companies pooling into one, and the one company then stands in the position of both companies. That isn't what's happened here either. What's happened, so far as I understand, vis-a-vis Accurascale and Heljan, is that Accurascale have purchased the assets, and this I think comes from the official Accurascale releases, the assets of the company called Heljan A/S. Heljan A/S is a company incorporated in Denmark. Now, I do not know anything about Danish law insofar as I expect it's similar in some respects and different in others, but in which respects I don't know. So that is the company that is incorporated in Denmark. What appears to have happened is Accurascale, which is a company incorporated, I think, in England and Wales, has bought the assets of the company that is incorporated in Denmark. So the company that's incorporated in Denmark, when I checked, I think on Friday, on the Danish company's website, which I'm less familiar with than the UK company's house website, so I wasn't able to get quite as much information. It showed that it was still in existence, Heljan A/S, and I assume that A/S is the equivalent in Danish to limited. I don't know for certain, but
I believe it may well be, yes.
Yes. It showed that it still existed, and its status was set to be normal, whatever that means in the Danish company registry end of things. So it suggested that Heljan still exists, but Accurascale, it seems, have bought all of the assets, which presumably mean the stock in trade,
yes,
presumably mean the cash in the bank, possibly, which presumably means, or maybe not the cash in the bank, we'll come to that in a second, which presumably means the intellectual property. Yes, the tooling. Mm-hmm. So, well, exactly who owns the tooling is another question. Now, we don't know the answer to that. That was likely to be commercial confidential. It could well be owned by the factories and just there be a right, or it could be directly owned by Heljan.
But presumably they've purchased the rights to have access to the tooling, so to speak, right? If not the tooling itself.
They probably have, yes. That's very likely, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to announce we're going to be producing these models that were formerly Heljan models.
Right.
So that's the reasonable inference from what Accurascale have announced. So the consequence of all that is, unless you get to one of those fairly specialist situations in which there's a transaction that the courts can unwind, the person who is liable on the contract, in other words, the person who would have entered into a contract with, I think, the distributor in the UK, who I believe was GageMaster, would be the company Heljan A/S.
Yes.
And if I don't know what those contracts say, that obviously again wouldn't be public knowledge. There may well be clauses in there permitting Heljan A/S to discontinue the relationship on written notice or something like that, I don't know. But the liability for performing those contracts would lie with Heljan A/S and would not lie with Accurascale. You don't acquire someone's liability just because you buy an asset. If I buy your house, I don't then buy your debts, right?
Yes.
Even if I were to buy your loft and your model railway and everything that goes with it, and you were to give me permission to start running the Monday Club, that wouldn't make me liable for the debts of All Mouse Media Limited.
Right, yes.
So just as Accurascale, having bought all of Heljan's assets, doesn't make them liable for Heljan's debts, such as they may have been. I don't know exactly what their debts were. I think someone online, Little Wicket Railway, looked at their filed accounts in the Danish company's registry from last year, in which they appeared to be making a profit, and they appeared to be solvent on a balance sheet basis at that point. Mm-hmm. But they were making a very, very small profit. I think he worked it out as about £14,000 a year, which is not what one would expect from a major manufacturer, perhaps.
Yeah, and presumably as well, that would mean that, for example, warranty claims would be with Heljan A/S rather than with Accurascale, because effectively they were the company that at the time were selling the models, and if the company itself has not been bought, then the warranty claim effectively would theoretically, my understanding, am I right, be still with Heljan A/S?
Yes, so I preface this by noting I'm not a consumer law expert, so I don't know the precise details of the manufacturer's as opposed to the retailer's liability under a warranty.
Right.
And I think your last guest suggested that the first liability is with the retailer, which I think is generally right.
Yes.
But so far as the manufacturer has a warranty liability, then unless there's some weird EU regulation that I don't know anything about, and that isn't my area, and to what extent that would apply after Brexit, it may well have been incorporated if there is something. But in the normal run of things, the contractual liability would be with Heljan A/S if there's a liability to the retailers or to the distributor. The liability would be the Heljan A/S, unless there's some particular regulation in an area that I'm not quite so familiar with.
Right.
And any direct liability is probably with Heljan A/S as well, rather than Accurascale, which just buys the assets.
Right. So I mean, I take it that essentially means that it's perfectly possible to buy free and clear the assets and leave behind the liabilities. That's perfectly able to be done.
That can, in principle, be done. Yes, there are some qualifications to that to prevent people from just closing down companies and say, well, I owe lots of debts, I'm just going to start up a new company and buy the asset for 50p and then carry on going. Right? There are ways to avoid the obvious ways of defrauding that kind of scheme. Not to suggest anyone has defrauded anything in this case, just to be clear. But the way that it works is, if you are a company, if you're a director of a company, you owe a duty, a legal duty to your shareholders, to run that company in the best interest of your shareholders, insofar as the company is solvent. Insofar as the company is not solvent, we'll come back to what that means in a second, your duty is to run the company in the interest of your creditors. And there are certain things that the courts can do if you haven't run the company in the interest of your creditors. So, for example, if you're a director of a company and the company is not solvent, meaning either that its ultimate net liabilities exceed its ultimate net assets, and liabilities include what are called contingent prospective liabilities. In other words, liabilities that fall due in the future. So your next month's telephone bill, for example, is a prospective liability. Or a contingent liability is one that might fall due in the future. So what calls you might incur on your telephone, we don't know exactly what they are, but you're likely to incur some calls. That's a contingent liability. If your assets don't meet that, or if you can't pay your debts as and when they fall due, the cash flow basis of insolvency. Again, that's the one that's more commonly used because people normally invoke insolvency procedures when people don't in fact pay their debts. If a company is insolvent, and the director of the company were to dispose of the company's assets at an undervalue, that's a critical part. The liquidator of that company, when it's liquidated after being made insolvent or after insolvency procedures, can ask the court to exercise its discretion to unwind that transaction. There are lots of different ways of doing it. There's one provision in respect of giving a preference to one creditor over another, for example. There's another provision, the most well-used one, and this one can be used by people who aren't liquidators, which is Section 423 of the Insolvency Act 1926, which allows the court to set aside a transaction at an undervalue where it was entered into, where one of its purposes was to prejudice the interest of creditors. So that covers I'm buying this defunct company's assets for 50p because I'm the person who's running the company last time and I just want to get rid of its debts and not run it anymore. So there are remedies against that. Now, that's not to say that those are applicable in this case. We don't know enough of the details to suggest that's even a possibility. That's just the way that the scheme works. The critical bit is you've got to pay market value for the assets, which means that whoever's buying the assets of the company must, in exchange for getting those assets, credit the company's bank account with sufficient money to cover what those assets are worth. And then the company must use that money to pay off its creditors, as and when they fall due. And the creditors include contingent prospective creditors. Yes.
Absolutely. I should interject at this point that Accurascale and Heljan are on record saying that Heljan AS was financially sound, and that's not. We're not suggesting that. We're merely sort of going through other things. We're not specifically talking about this. Both Accurascale and Heljan are on record saying that Heljan was not in financial difficulties and financially was sound. So this is just merely going through the full scope of the liquidation.
Yes. So what, in a case of a solvent company whose assets are being purchased, what one would expect would be that the money that's paid for the assets that goes into the company's bank account is then sufficient to pay that company's liabilities, including its contingent and prospective liabilities. And that would include such liabilities, if any, as it may have for not being able to honour the contracts that it entered into because it no longer has the assets to do so.
Right.
So there's a well-known principle in English law. It's a slightly weird concept in a way, which is called the right to breach a contract, which means simply that if you can pay the damages that the person whose contract you've broken can claim arising from your breach of contract, there's nothing other than your liability and damages that's going to stop you from doing that. So if you've got enough money to afford to pay damages, you can break your contract, with some exceptions, where there's an irreplaceable thing, such as, for example, a particular property you can normally get what's called specific performance for that, and there are various other things. But normally, if it's just about money, as it probably would be in this kind of situation, you can, as long as you can pay damages, you can breach your contract knowing that's all that's going to happen. So if, and again, we don't know whether there is any possible breach of contract in this particular case, but if a company couldn't fulfill its contractual obligations because it had sold all its assets, then it would be still solvent, providing it has enough money from the purchase of the assets that it had sold to pay any damages that might be due as a result of not being able to fulfill its contracts. Right. Of course, it can be hard to work out what those damages are if you're looking at consequential losses. But of course, there may well be contracts they've entered into which limit the damages, which are the thing you can do in a contract, to a specific amount in the event of a particular thing. Or they may not have breached this contract. So in a particular situation, the company in question may have had a right to terminate the contract on notice in particular ways.
Yes.
So there may not be any liability of that sort. We don't know what the situation is in this particular case, and one wouldn't properly speculate without having more details.
Absolutely. And a final question is, are there any potential pitfalls if you sell your product, or in this situation, the product's being sold by Heljan direct for less than what the previous wholesale price is? Is that something that could cause issues or not?
This touches on an area I know rather less about, which is competition law. That's not my area of expertise. I can give you a very, very, very general outline.
That's perfect.
Which suggests that there may not be anything that can be done, but I can't really be sure about that. Absolutely. The basic principles of competition law, there are two kinds of things, from my understanding, that you can't do. One is enter into an agreement, a collusive type of agreement. Things like price fixing and cartels are covered by that kind of arrangement.
Right. So, for example,
that applies to everybody.
A manufacturer saying you must sell our product for this amount, or you cannot discount by this much.
That would be, I think, a manufacturer and retailer or set of retailers agreeing we're not going to sell it below this kind of price.
Right.
That's the paradigm kind of example. That's the first category. The second category is abuse of a dominant market position. I don't know precisely what counts as abuse. I think it's quite complex. But the important thing is you have to have a dominant market position before you can be guilty of abusing it.
Right.
And I'm kind of doubting that either Heljan or Accurascale can be said to have a dominant market position. There's a lot of competition, which is kind of why we're here in this position in the first place, I think.
Yeah, and I suspect that the monetary value of sales of other marks would probably far exceed the sales of Accurascale and Heljan.
Yes. So from my limited knowledge of competition law, and I stress this is not my area, it doesn't look like there's the kind of thing that would be relevant here. If there were a contract saying you mustn't do this, obviously that would be relevant. There isn't anything in the public domain suggesting there is a contract in those terms that I'm aware of.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much, because I know a lot of people online have been asking various questions, and I thought it was a great opportunity, as we know you quite well.
Can I just I was quiet there because I was just enthralled with James and his deep arcane knowledge of how the canals. I'm going, right.
Actually,
so
that was very interesting.
Yeah, I was like, tell me more, wizard. Tell me more of it. Quote the deep magics to me. So it was fantastic. Please do a video about that, James, because it was very genuinely interesting.
It was actually.
And they've got cup of tea, couple of bickies, and oh yes, tell me how the Manchester Ship Canal began. Right, I genuinely didn't know that. So thank you very much, James. That was awesome. Thank you, mate. That was really cool. I did not know that. Yeah.
Excellent. And
must be said for a spot of canallery of an afternoon.
But again, we must reiterate that whilst your day job you are a barrister, you are not giving legal advice.
You don't look like he works in a coffee shop.
Sorry?
You don't look like he works in a
barista.
Shop.
No.
It's just, you're not saying it with a posh accent. It's the same thing with your posh accent.
But no, important, serious stuff. Whilst you are a barrister, this is not your specialist area of law. You are not giving legal advice. However, as you are well versed in legalese, you're able to kind of just help lay people like us just better understand nuances of the law. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and I do deal with contract and insolvency, so those are areas that I deal with. But number one, I can't give legal advice to the general public. and certainly not on a YouTube video. And number two, this isn't intended to be advice to a particular person. I'm just explaining how the law works. Competition law certainly is not my specialty area.
And as we always say, if anybody wants specific legal advice, they need to find a specialist in that area and go to them. They cannot rely on anything that has been said today. No. This is not legal advice. So I just want to make sure that everybody's very clear on that. But look, thank you so much for coming on, James. We will sort out with you for your Blue Monday Club badge and
ask if it's coming to the show. We can give it in there.
The show. Yeah. Oh, are you?
That is very kind.
Will you be at Key Model World Live? Do you know?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I'll have to check my diary. I can't immediately recall. I don't know whether I'm free on those dates.
It is a few. I think we should just post it out.
I'll post it out
because James may be able to make use of this and make use of the exclusive in-person shopping discounts supporting local retailers. So we will post this out to you. So I'll let Zoe sort out with you for that. But look, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm always totally in awe of your impeccable dress sense.
I'm just looking forward to the Canal series that he's going to make.
Actually, yeah, that would make a very good podcast.
Or a series about the contribution that railway cases have had to English law.
Yeah,
there's one well-known one about.
Well,
yes.
I mean,
Metropolitan Railway. The Underground Electric Railways of London and Westinghouse Electric, which is another thing for another day and time.
And also the formation of trade unions with the Taff Vale Railway case, I believe, was very important in what later springboarded the trade union movement.
Yes, that's less my area, but I can well imagine that's probably the case as well.
Yeah, it's something I remember from school. They say that all this stuff washes over you and is lost. But actually, that was something that stuck in my mind from secondary school, and it's quite pivotal. The rise of the trade union movement and such like is it's quite fascinating. But we are straying, and again, like to thank you for coming on. We are very impressed by your green leather chair. It does look.
Jen's jealous.
I am actually. It looks tremendously comfortable and like it belongs in a gentleman's club. And thank you so much for raising the dress code here on the Monday Club, because we're a couple of. I mean, look at this guy.
Not that I'm wearing my sponsor's T-shirt. Thank you very much.
But everybody, it's James
This is
Petts.
the smartest shirt I own, by the way. So.
James Petts, avid railway modeller, does some great work particularly in Engage, but involved with the Model Railway Club in London, I believe. And
that's correct. Yes.
And definitely look out for him at shows. He will be the best dressed gent in the entire hall. I will guarantee people that. So thank you so much for coming on, and have a great rest of your evening.
Well, very welcome. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Take care.
Cheers.
So it was James Petts on there, and it's always a pleasure to speak to James.
He's got a lot of time for James. He's a genuinely
nice guy.
He's an absolutely nice chap.
Fiercely knowledgeable as well. I was genuinely. I was like, I really wanted to just forget everything else. Continue telling me about business law and how the canal stay was.
But if Zoe would sort out the picture, and sorry. Our producer is busy reading.
I'm doing 6 different things all at once, and half of them don't work.
Yeah,
they're incompatible, and also there are buts.
Oh dearie me! But I know we've kind of run over a little bit over where we were intending to be at this point. It always happens.
I don't think we're going to have time for our check-ins. I'm going to have to reschedule.
Do we not even have time for one of them?
I
do, because they may have.
Probably, yeah.
Did you warn them that
I did warn them. We have had one statement here. I'm trying to find it now because it's gone on back a bit. There was someone who said, "What do we need to have this discussion for?" Because Accurascale and Heljan will have had legal advice before they went and did all of this.
Oh yeah, and absolutely.
Yes, they absolutely would. But I want to address this. Like I said earlier, this is not about trying to send blame anywhere. This is not about trying to say these guys are bad and these guys are good and all of that. This is about clarity, because there's been so much going round.
Oh, hell yeah.
It needs to be sorted.
I think what was very, very important is that I think for lay people who are not familiar with the workings of the law and such like, and the nuances, I think it's important to establish the differences, what it actually means.
Because we like to talk about the events in the model world, and this has been a very big point of discussion at the minute. So it's only right that we discuss the areas and get the experts in where we are not.
Yeah. Krista Duke says James Petts is lovely. He is Officer Tabby Cat in Star Trek Adventures. Yes,
he is. We've had some fun times with the Star Trek.
Yeah. David Scott says just got to go and get tea. Back soon. Ham Shackleton says lots of books on the canals if you care to look for them.
For a video, really.
And Raymond Legg says nice suit, James. But always. I hear that. James Petts is so impeccably dressed that Savile Row tailors have secretly named a tweed in honour of his immense dress coat. And sometimes I feel a bit bad. I think James sits there going, "Oh, will you shut up about my dress coat?"
Yes.
But no,
he takes it in good spot. He's a good.
He does actually. He is great. James Petts has, it seems, replaced Gandalf. Was enjoying the learning about the canals. And Nigel Cole says we approve of his green chair.
He's actually a Kingsman.
He is.
I love those
he is
films.
A Kingsman.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oxford, not Brogues. Brilliant.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Mark Wilson says I think we need to take a deep breath and let the dust settle. Absolutely.
There is a lot of that, but
I think going forward, I think this has been all the talk. I'm sure something new will come along before the end of the week, and we'll all move on.
I just like to see, the stock back with the retailers personally. It'd be lovely.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing that I think has caused the largest amount of issues.
I would love to see that. I love both models from both manufacturers. I've gone on record saying I love Heljan, I love the Accurascale model. I'd love to see them back on the high street.
Mark Wilson asks, has James Petts got a 3D figure? I don't know whether he's been scanned by Model U. You would have to ask either James Petts or Model U.
Government secret agents aren't allowed to be scanned.
Scamperton Model Railway says, Jenny, give Top Trains from Stafford a shout out. Big up Top Trains and the Top Trains posse. Mike and Steve were very helpful today, both on advice selling me a Wills kit for this weekend project. And that is exactly one of the things you get from your local model railway shop. You get advice and a lot of help, and there's a lot of skills get passed on that way as well. Livestream Nick says, long live all model manufacturers. Absolutely. DJ K666 says, this will all settle down, but I certainly hope the retailers can be cut back in soon.
Yes.
Anthony says, how many models have Accurascale shifted over the weekend, and how many pre-orders have they taken? More than what Heljan's done for a while. And
we don't know.
We don't have access.
And I think as well is after the initial shock is. I think some of these items are now sold out at Heljan. So once they're gone, they're gone. And this is about clearing stock that's already there and has been there in some instances for a while. And this isn't the new norm. You're not going to be able to go to Heljan and buy super cheap trains like this. Yeah, I think the market will normalise.
Yes, this was a big wave causing big ripples.
And Retro Rambles says Accurascale a damn good value and very high quality. And I'd agree with that. Let's not pretend otherwise. That there's some great models. The HUO and HTO and HTV hoppers. Some of my favourites. The mineral wagons, the 16-ton mineral wagons, I think they're very, very good. Yeah. And they sit very well next to the Bachmann ones. I don't want to take anything. They do. They complement each other. But what I do like about the Accurascale ones is that they did some of the very interesting liveries, which it felt like Bachmann kind of ignored. So I'm looking at the blue ones over there. They were Horwich Loco Works internal users. And there was also the the ICI line, the soda ash ones as well. Some really quite interesting liveries, and it was great to see them. In terms of locomotives, some of my favourite locomotives, the buck jumpers.
Bucky's a good little model.
J67, J68 and J69. I believe the Accurascale website still actually has some stocks of some of the models, not all of them. across those different styles. And yeah, they're a great little model. I really do love my buck jumpers. Looking forward to the 08 Shunter. Yeah, we've had the Bachmann one. It'll be nice to see what the Accurascale one is like. I don't doubt it'll be a very, very good model. And you know, I'm looking around now. I'm just
look around.
Anthony says he knows from messaging a lot of people have pre-orders now with the Deltic and DMU who didn't before.
There is that. You know, you could argue that this has kind of promoted the Heljan models, and you know, we were talking with Gareth from Trains for You earlier on, and saying about often the local model shop is that first introduction to brands that people didn't know about. And, you know, when you've got people like that, when I say like, people on the street, people who aren't, let's go for a different angle, people who aren't in the bubble, so to speak. You know, you ask yourself, model trains, they go, oh, it's Hornby, isn't it? You know, for them, Hornby and model trains are the same thing. They don't actually understand there is anything else. And the local model shop is often the first point that these people have where they see other brands like Bachmann, like Daypole, like Accurascale, like Cavalex, like Revolution, like Oxford Rail. You know, that's their, like, oh, I didn't know these existed. And actually,
I have to say though, when a non-initiated person goes, oh, you've got a train set, I'm like, oh, it's a layout, it's a real proper model railway, it's not a train set.
I have a train set.
Yeah, oh, it's
I just run stuff on the table.
Many years ago, when we got burgled, the shed got broken into, Bolton Trinity Road got robbed. It was actually something I came up with the insurance loss adjuster. They said, how many train sets were stolen? And you're like,
no.
Go away and give me some of that.
I'm sorry. It's like when people say train station. It just like I know that, like, well, it's bus station. Why is it not train station? But it's like,
why isn't it called plane station?
Yeah, because we just don't call it that.
So we have. I think we've got time for one check-in.
Yes.
So we're going to have to.
Right. So we're going to have. I know. I'm so sorry. We had 2 people lined up for the check-ins, but obviously things move very, very fast. But we have lots of Blue Monday Club badges, and we want to give these things away.
And I think you'll enjoy.
And just remember that one of the main purposes of the Monday Club badge scheme is to show your love of the show. But actually, one of the other reasons is to support your local model shop, and we've got a whole range of retailers who support the Monday Club badge scheme with in-person discounts available when you buy from them at shows, when you buy from them at bricks and mortar shop. Not available, not available online. So support your local model shop with a Monday Club badge. So are we able to get our check-in?
Steve joining us for a moment.
So this will be.
So this is Steve Worthington from Worthington Model Railway, and I think he'll have something interesting to say too.
Absolutely, because he's based in the US, and I believe that he's shared with us his layout running videos before now. So you did tell him, oh, we're going to call you.
Yes.
He's not going to come on like with a towel wrapped around his head. And
if he wants to, I will not judge.
So I do feel this is like Saturday morning kids TV, where they'd ring a random number.
Come on, James, answer the phone. You've won £1 million.
Yeah, but
so hello. How are you doing? So we're getting audio through, but no video. But we always say. So
it says videos connected. Hang on, let me.
It sometimes does take a minute.
Yeah.
It may take a little minute just to connect. I think there is a little bit of a slowdown on the line. I did notice some delay creep in when we were interviewing people before.
A bit of wormholing.
But it's okay. We can still chat, and I know that you've shared videos with us in the past. I always love seeing your model railway. Although I should say, should I say model railroad or model railway? Because you're in, is it Minnesota? Am I right?
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota. I don't know what's going on here because I'm getting a lot of feedback too. Are you getting feedback?
We're not getting any feedback that we can hear.
Okay.
So I can only assume it's your end. The only other thing I can suggest is we could try redialing. I don't know whether that would
try
help.
dialing again. Yeah.
So
sure.
we're just going to
Try dialing again. Yeah.
we'll redial you again and see if that picks up. So we're just going to try and redial that. But yeah, Steve's model layout. He's in Minnesota, and I think yes.
Hey!
Yes. There we go.
Oh, see, this is what the American paternity. Look at the size of his small layout. His small layout is bigger than my house. This is the problem.
Well, it's in it's in an 80-foot by 40-foot building.
Oh my word, that's huge.
And so it's actually 65 feet by at the widest point about 12 feet.
Oh wow.
So
I mean, would that be considered a big layout by your fellow
American standards? Well, I know of larger ones. There are a lot of people in the U.S. that have their model railroads, as they call them, in their basement, right? So, and this is kind of average by those types of things.
Right.
I mean, you think about Ken Patterson's. I mean, his goes all the way around his basement, which is probably bigger than this. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on here. This is my 4th layout. Never had one as big as this before.
Right.
So this one definitely is the biggest I've done yet. And it started out as being 40 feet, and then I kept adding to it. And as I say, it's up in what we call a loft in the U.S. I mean, it's just like the mezzanine floor that's erected. I know you mentioned before, Jenny, because I have cars parked underneath, and I actually sent a couple of pictures to Zoe of that. So yeah, I thought maybe what I could do is just give you a quick tour of the layout.
That would be
a nice chair in the background.
We're just chair watch. We're admiring your comfy chair because our last guest had an amazing chair. So so
this was what I was up to this weekend. I put this garden in place. That was my.
Oh right, so it's like a vegetable garden.
Like a vegetable garden. Yep.
That looks lovely.
And then the Metcalf buildings as well. I believe they are. They look like Metcalf.
Yeah.
These are Metcalf buildings, yeah, and these light up. I don't know if you can see the lights.
Yes, I can see
the living room there. Yes.
And the lights are on a random timer using an Uno, so they will randomly come on and off at different intervals. I'm probably not going to sit here and wait long enough for them to do that. But,
yeah.
And then back here, you'll see I have a roundhouse which was kit bashed from multiple.
That has come out really well, actually.
That's awesome. I love that. What's the turntable, Steve?
Building site here. And of course, you know, it's
TARDIS. TARDIS.
I have to have a cricket match.
Oh, that is lovely. And of course, I mean, you've got the space to be able to get the full cricket match on there.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can I ask, how difficult is it to get UK outline over in the States?
It all comes from the UK.
Right.
So when I think about it, I mean, occasionally I'll find stuff on eBay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 95% of my rolling stock is from the UK. Because Hatton's used to be my go-to.
Right.
Rails of Sheffield was, but I haven't bought anything in a year because of all this stupid tariff stuff.
No,
I can imagine.
On the other hand, that's not necessarily a bad thing because that means I'm not buying stuff. And so then we go down. This area here is my industrial. I kind of think of this as being lots of dioramas, right?
Yeah.
And then I have a a yard down here.
Yeah.
And if I go all the way over here, there's a caravan and camping site over there.
Yeah.
We have a farm in the middle over here. And there's my traction engines plowing. I mean, this is kind of set try to keep it thinking of towards the end of steam, beginning of British Railways, that sort of time. Yeah.
And I mean, can I just quickly? I mean, your accent occasionally sounds American.
Hey, love, I can still do it,
Yeah. So
I was born and dragged up in Yorkshire.
Ah, right. So sometimes you're sounding a little bit more American, and I hear the British accent creeping in.
What I hear is sometimes it combines, and it sounds like it's from Boston.
From Boston.
Yeah.
Well, I lived in Boston for 17 years.
Ah, there you are.
So,
you see, then.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is.
Yeah.
I mean, I would give anything to have this kind of space to be able to model in.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absolutely amazing. And how long has it taken you to build this layout so far?
I started it when COVID happened. So when we got locked down for COVID, so what would that 2021? I think
something like that.
Was
it?
Yeah,
yeah, I think it was something.
So
like
that's when it started. But I've been, as I say, this is my fourth layout. I've been modeling scenic layouts for 30 odd years. This is my first locomotive.
Hornby 00 Kobo.
Yeah, the Hornby 00. I got that when I was about 6 years old.
Yeah, my father had one of those, and I kind of inherited it as part of my childhood layout. And I have a very much a soft spot for them, so much so that when Heljan brought out their Class 28 through Hattons, I had to buy one because it was that childhood memory.
Yeah. Well, I do have another one up here that runs. That one doesn't run anymore.
Right.
I probably should just take it apart and fix it.
But, I see other Hornby 00 there as well, actually. That's
this is my Hornby 00 cabinets. There's two Hornby 00 cabinets up here.
That is really nice. Yeah, there's some. I mean, there's just such nice models. It has to be said.
So then this is my whole 009 piece of the layout right here. You have to hang on a second. My cable got caught up.
Ah, right. No worries.
Okay. So this is a 009 area here. Comes all through along here.
Yeah.
We have some other working things here.
I love it. I love it. Is that a Walther's kit or
no? These are Menards.
Right. Yes, they did the Piggly Wiggly that I love that I got. Yeah. They are lovely.
And then get too much stuff out the back.
No.
We sympathise. We've been there as well.
So this is a canal, and all of these houses at the back light up as well.
Oh wow!
Okay.
But you've built
they're not. I don't think you can see them. I don't think you can see them. There's too much light. Hang on, let me turn the light off. That way you'll maybe see them light up. These are on the same random.
Yeah.
They're on the same random Uno lighting things.
Yeah.
Yep. I need to do a new water pour in the canal. I've been doing some bits and pieces with that.
Yeah.
The windmill over in the corner.
Oh, that's a nice one. I just is that what kit is that? You're able to tell us?
It's a Kibri.
Kibri, yes. And there's some.
And that also runs on a Uno. It turns the lights on and off and runs the sails.
Love it, and I love the way that you've got extra stock but easily accessible on shelving. That's something which I know space is such at a premium here. I have stuff hidden away in drawers. And Tipfield Thunderbolt. Oh.
Yep. So this is my fiddle yards. I've got 4 lines here and 6 at the back here.
Yeah.
This all lights up too.
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah, you've got the yard lamps. Oh, that works really nice.
Yep. And then another little halt station here.
Wow. There's so much.
I'm so envious of the space.
But it's like a layout like this. There's always something new to look at that catches your.
Look at the size.
Oh look, Zoe! Look, it's the Metcalfe Castle.
Oh, gorgeous!
Flying the proper flag. showing those bally colonists where who's who.
Yeah. You can see the
we see the lights. That
Oh, wow.
it's in the and the gardens in there. Yeah.
That's come out really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They are a great kit. I mean, there's a lot of great kits from Metcalfe. Again, model shops up and down the country have some great ranges of things like Metcalfe.
Yep. So there's always more stuff to do.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for giving us a quick tour of your layout, and thank you for coming on. We will send you a Blue Monday Club badge. Now, one thing I will warn you, we've had a few issues sending badges to the US. We've sent some to Robert Steers at Roker Prototype Models. We sent Ken Patterson one. We sent James Regier one, and they start coming back, and we're not quite sure why. So we will send it. You might have to wait a few weeks, and it might just end up back here with a little note from the US Postal Service saying return to sender. We don't know why. But do you ever get over to the UK at all?
Well, I mean, the last time I was over at the UK, if you remember, we met at Worley in 2022.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while, and I don't have any plans right now. I mean, it's all kind of just a little bit weird traveling anywhere right now from the US.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Particularly where I'm still a Brit. I'm a permanent resident here in the US and have been for 35 years. But you just worry a little bit about some things right now. So I got no plans, but I'm sure I'll get over there sooner or later.
Yeah. Well,
Mom and Dad are still around, so I come see them in a while.
Yeah,
I mean, they're down in Ramsgate.
Oh, right. So just by Hornby.
Yeah, I worked at Hornby one summer back in 1978.
Wow.
I worked a tampon machine at Hornby Hobbies while I was home from uni.
And how did you find that back then? Was it a pretty good job, or?
Well, I worked third shift, which paid relatively well, and also I was on piecework. So the more things I got out, I got bonus.
Right.
Although I did get a visit from the union one day to tell me I had to slow down.
Yeah, it's like you're making everybody else look bad.
Yeah, I turned the tempo machine up. And then a couple of days later, after I got that visit, I got a box full of locomotive bodies with the numbers printed upside down on them. And I had to fix it. So I had to clean them all off and then reprint them all. And of course, that slowed me down considerably too. And I think that was kind of
they got creative in making sure you work to a slower rate.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it was interesting. I only did it for one summer, and I only did it for about 6 or 7 weeks. Something.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we can either take a risk posting this direct, or we could post it to them down in Ramsgate. Or the third alternative is, I believe that we may be having a visit from Robert Steers from Roker Models, who is thinking about coming over. What we might be able to do is give him a load of envelopes and some cash and get him to post them when he gets
into the country. Yes, very good.
He can then post them once he gets into the US again. So we will find a way of getting this to you. But look, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your amazing layout room with us. I really enjoyed that tour. And is that a flying saucer behind you, just out of curiosity?
Oh, yes. That's a flying saucer. Hang on, that's another Menards thing. Now, I don't...
Oh, look, it's
it lights up. Cool.
Oh, I love it.
Not only that, but it's actually trying to steal a cow.
I love it. Oh,
I think I've seen that before.
Yeah. Can I ask, do they still sell those, just out of curiosity? Asking for a friend.
Okay, the answer is yes, but it's not the same. It's, how to explain it? They changed it, and it's got M&Ms on it now.
Oh, right.
You have M&Ms in the UK, right? We used to.
We do, yeah.
But it's a little different, but they do. If you go on their website, you'll see it.
I'll have to have
and
a
if
look.
you want one let me know. I'll pick one up and mail you one.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Zoe, take a note. We need to Maynard's, and we need to find our own flying saucer. We must have.
And they make wine gums.
No, different Maynards.
Okay.
But look, thank you so much for coming on.
They make them. They make O gauge ones too. They make a lot of buildings, but all of the buildings are kind of, the U.S. outline, so they don't really work with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, yeah.
Which and again lights up. It's wonderful. I love this, and obviously I can't put it on my layout, but it still sits there because it's like. It really is. I love the models that they do, and in a way, it's a shame that they don't seem to have a distributor in the UK, because I think some of these they add the fun and the play value back into the hobby, which is very important. But look,
well, the story is the owner of Menards has a big model railroad, so he's really into it, and so he started commissioning these pieces and selling them. So you're going into what's like a B&Q basically, and in one corner they have a model railroad section.
Oh, wicked!
And almost everything they have is either in HO or O gauge. They have a lot of O gauge.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. Have yourself a great rest. Well, I'm guessing you're sort of somewhere in the afternoon at the moment.
Yeah, it's 2:45.
2:45. No worries. Well, look.
And just one other thing. It's my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday to you. Squash, tomatoes and stew. Bread and butter in the gutter. Happy birthday to you. So many happy returns. I won't ask how old. It's like 21 again.
Old enough, yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, old enough to have worked at Hornby in 1978, so you can work it out.
But look, take care. Have the great rest of your day, and thank you so much for coming on. So
thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, Steve.
So there we are. Our check-in, and that's an amazing layout. So we're just sorting out the cameras, and we'll get the chat back up, and I
have sent a message to Andrew. Saying, look, I'm really sorry that we're obviously not going to be able to get you on tonight because
it's been action-packed.
It's been action-packed. It has, yes.
It has.
But I've asked him to come on another night, and we'll arrange that. Now it's just one of those things. Everything ran over.
Can I just say there's no fire extinguisher here that wasn't here?
Oh, right, yeah.
Up until very recently.
Yeah, actually, there's a reason for that. Ken Patterson's just put out a video, which is the full video from his cameras. They're not security cameras.
I've not seen that yet.
He put cameras on his railroad, and
heart-rendering.
The reason that we now have, trying not to set it off.
Please don't.
We now have this in the loft as a direct result of seeing the fire that happened at Ken Patterson's place. So this is carbon dioxide. We decided that we've got electronics, we're indoors, and we just thought that carbon dioxide would be the best solution.
Is that the one that will freeze your hand?
Yeah, you don't grab it.
Yeah.
So I cannot stress this enough, people. Make sure fire safety is up there, because what happened to Ken was actually a locomotive derailed on a point that wasn't set right.
Oh.
And the short circuit that happened wasn't enough to trip out the DCC controller. And it caused, I presume, an arc between the wheel and the rail, which got hot enough to ignite the foam that was underneath the track bed. And once that went up, he's posted the full video. You can watch it in real time happening. And it is quite an eye-opener how quick that fire did develop. And what happened was he went upstairs to make a pot of coffee and left the train running. And
we've all done it.
We've all done that. I used to do that. I go downstairs and you kind of get sucked into doing that. And you leave the trains running. You think, oh, it'll be all right. And don't do that. I now religiously turn the trains off when I leave the room when there's nobody up here, because I think of what happened to Ken. And Ken was very lucky in that he caught it in time. He had fire extinguishers to hand. He says he didn't have smoke alarms, and I guess if he'd do something different now, it would be make sure the smoke alarms, which would have notified him much sooner. But you know, you can't be too safe, and that's the reason that Weiryard has a carbon monoxide.
Are you going to put Google eyes on it?
Carbon dioxide.
Put Google eyes on it.
Google
Top the toaster.
I'll go and get the googly eyes.
Yeah,
then. But you had this a similar thing the other week. Last time Craig was here, in fact.
Oh yeah, we had.
And I was saying to you, "Do you smell fire?" And they're like, "No, like no, seriously, do you smell fire?"
And the thing was, we didn't. We were sat here, and the electronics device that went.
I saw it before I smelt it.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for me. Granted,
yeah, because we saw the smoke coming out from under the scenery, and luckily in that instance, it didn't actually set anything on fire.
It melted it, didn't it?
It melted the foam board. I have no idea how flammable foam board actually is. I do not have a wish to find out, to be honest with you. I'm not going to go, oh, let's see how well this burns. But yeah, look, fire safety is the name of the game. If you're not convinced, go and watch Ken Patterson's video.
When I get home.
And it's the full timeline.
It's horrifying. Right, we have 9 minutes left. So, do we have a sum up?
No, I think we've covered everything. What I don't want to do is keep raking over this.
No.
I've already. The sum up is that for anybody who lives in a box under the ocean and hasn't heard, Accurascale has acquired Heljan, and that's the terminology that they used in their initial press release. So that's the terminology I'm using. That's why I'm using that terminology. We've talked a bit about that. We went to Gareth at Trains for You to talk to him, not just about his model shop, a little bit of background, but we also talked about supporting your local model shops, why that is so important.
Yes.
And then also a little bit about how the Heljan takeover, Accurascale acquiring Heljan has impacted him, and obviously that's something to get a better insight with retailers. With that, we had a chat with James Petts, the impeccably dressed barrister, who is not giving legal advice. It's very important. I will stress this again. Whilst James Petts is a barrister in his day job,
and a canal expert apparently.
And a canal expert, it
yes,
seems.
He wasn't here to give legal
advice. He was not giving legal advice. He was merely helping lay people such as ourselves understand some of the terms that have been used, because to people who are not familiar with the nuances of the law and interpretation of the law, it can all get quite confusing, and sometimes it's nice to have somebody explain it with the lovely dulcet tones of James Petts. Absolutely. And it's like, oh, right, I understand now.
Yeah, and that's what all of this was tonight. It's trying to cut through the barracks room lawyering that's been going on, the rumour mongering.
And I will say again, I said at the start, I feel in some respects like I got unfairly pilloried in this, like I always do. Ropes and rails. I wasn't even involved in that. But I put out an opinion piece over the weekend. A lot of other people put out videos as well. And, I like to think I've cleared up. Heljan perhaps felt that I was having a go at Kim and Ben Jones, and I'd like to reiterate that was not my intention. That was not the purpose of the video. What I was trying to get across was parallels between stocks that were left in the warehouse at Hornby 00 in the 1960s that were so vast that they weren't going to sell within a realistic time frame, with perhaps decisions on how many and what type of models to make that then ended up sort of languishing in the warehouse. And it was not meant as a personal attack, and I would like to reiterate that I have utmost respect for Ben Jones. I think he is a great person. I've always thought that. There is no change in what I've thought about Ben Jones. He's done an amazing job at Heljan over the years. He's also been very supportive of this channel. And prior to that, he was the editor at Model Rail who gave me my first chance in model rail publications, publishing an article on Grove Street Yard all those days ago. Still remember the issue 143 of Model Rail, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because he could easily have gone no. But he didn't. He took a chance on me. And
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And I think it's great to see that Ben Jones is continuing with Heljan as part of the Accurascale family, and I think he will continue to do a great job. And I think it can't have been easy for not just Heljan but also Accurascale over this weekend. I think that.
On retailers too, it's been difficult for
everyone. It's been difficult for retailers, but I'd like to stress that I do not in any circumstance believe that Accurascale have done this intentionally or maliciously. I think that is not the thing. It's just a case of maybe unintended consequences, and they've acted in good faith all the way, and I think that maybe it's kind of become overwhelming.
Yes.
And some of the messages that have come to me, I'm more than happy to put that down to the stress of the moment, it being a very stressful time. I don't hold any ill feeling. I hope that they don't hold any ill feeling either. And again, I'd like to reiterate, the one video that I put out was an opinion piece. It's my opinion, and I felt it was quite fair, and I want to reiterate that maybe when Ben Jones may have felt that I was having a go and criticising him, that was not my intention, and just want to put that out there. We did invite both Heljan and Accurascale on, and they declined. And that is their prerogative. There's no obligation to come on. But obviously, invitation is still open. Should they ever want to come on, for whatever reason, then our door is always open. And we'd like to see a great working relationship. There's some great models, not just from Accurascale, but also in the Heljan range. And we're really looking forward to seeing a lot of those models reappear. Quite possibly under the Accurascale branding, and I would.
I'd like to see the Class 17 revisited, updated.
I actually thought that wasn't a bad model. Now,
I didn't. Which is why I think if they make it more.
I think that with some of these models, I think the Class 25 will be very much at home in the Accurascale range. The 07, certainly the 02, and. In terms of wagons as well, actually, Heljan not necessarily well known for wagons. It's not really their primary concern. But actually, the TTV, I've got one here. I thought that was really.
We'll do that in TT. That'll be
TTV. That's its TOPS designation. I actually thought it was a really good wagon. I was quite pleased to get that. It's a lovely wagon. And again, looking forward to seeing that appear in the Accurascale range. And I don't think they'd need to do anything to it. I think the tooling was pretty good, and we've seen sometimes, everybody has their favourite manufacturers, and that's natural. It's the same with cars, with food, restaurants, clothes shops. Everybody has their favourites, but actually that doesn't mean the others are bad. And I always quite liked Heljan products. I'll be honest with you, really did. And I'm also looking forward to, in particular, a reappearance of the Class 76 and 77. I thought those were really good models. They change hands for actually quite a good premium second hand, so I'm not alone in thinking that those are really good models. And I'd like to see them reappear because they're actually really quite tough to get hold of. They definitely were not stock that was in the warehouse at Heljan, and I want to see them again. They are great models, and I honestly don't think they need much of anything doing to them. I think they are superb models. So we'll see how it goes. Simon Pitcher, thank you so much. Very kindly donated $19.99 on the super chat. Says great show tonight, guys. Too late for biscuits, but thank you so much. Never too late. There's always room for biscuits. Simon H317 says Rainbow Railways had Olivia's old stock. I think they got the stock that was in the shop. Rails got the stock that was in the warehouse. As I understand it, don't take what I say as gospel.
I've got some stock that's in cube form
in
my cupboard.
But I'm trying to think of other models that the Class 05 shunter as well. I really, really like that.
Got one of them, the great models.
Worthington Model Railway says, thanks for having me on tonight. Absolutely, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for showing us your railway.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Really great way. I love that Maynard's flying saucer.
Lovely, isn't it? Nice.
Mike Lane TT120 says, you've seen the TT stuff, Jenny? Yeah, I think the Deltic and the Class 121 have already appeared on the are they on the Accurascale or the Heljan website? I can't remember what. Yes. I'm not sure. I haven't actually checked, but wherever they have appeared, I think one knock-on effect of this, we talk about unintended consequences, is it may actually raise the profile of their existence, and there's been very, very healthy pre-orders for these.
Yeah.
Two Nerds, One Railway says, I would love to see the class.
That's a great name.
I would love the Class 14 get an update and upgrade. It got a
Me too.
Can I just say, it got a minor upgrade. It went to 21-pin socket and improved running. I've got one up there. It runs fine. The only thing I would change is that the side steps can be a bit fragile, especially when you pick up the model. It's easy to break them.
Yeah, I would probably say that the 21-pin version does run better than the.
Yeah. I keep looking up there because that's where mine is. I
need to get one of them actually.
Yeah, no. Hands off, it's mine. I like it.
That wasn't a hint, by the
way. Rosie Top Rail Production says, had a great time today. Been going through a lot lately, and this was a much needed break. Thank you so much. Anyway, I'm being given the hurry up, so there you have it. Right. Normal service will resume next week unless somebody goes and does something stupid.
The spout of time has begun to dribble.
Yes, it has. So, hopefully normal service next week, unless somebody does something stupid.
Well, I've got a live stream on Wednesday, so anything could happen.
Yeah. So
anything could happen in the next 3 days.
Oh yeah. So tune in. Oh, hold on. Is that at York next? Is it York Model Railway Show next Sunday?
Wow.
Cool. So look, you guys take great care. Are you on your stream tonight?
Yes.
So the Cupboard Monkey will be streaming Gamerhammer Classic Gaming. You know the drill. Please like, share, and subscribe, and then when you're given the prompt, you can carry on over there for your live steaming goodness.
Live streaming, yes.
My live stream's on April 1st actually, so there we are.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
There we go then.
So look, anyway, you guys take great care, and until next time, happy modelling. Bye for now.
Bye. Bon voyage.
Are we done?
the cup. Pull those wagons back and forth. Grunk it up. For what's your
And we are back onto the trains going by.
Yeah, we didn't have nearly enough of that.
But we had a lot of people talking, so you know these things happen. Right, the train now departing is a 21:06 service to Batchwadding, stopping at Minestatis nearest, Foxton on File, Foxton Junction, Packham on the back, Hoggleton on the hill. That a name, Glow. That Jenny said had a name. It turned out it didn't have a name. Bolton Trinity Road, Pittsburgh somehow, Eindhoven, and then on to Batchwadding. Also, as a request stop, remember to change at 3 Cocks for Lord Hereford's Knob. That's the 21:06 service to Batchwadding. If you could. Okay. If you go up to the loft today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go up to the loft today, you'll never believe your eyes. For every train there ever was has gathered there together, because today's the day that Jenny does the Monday Club. Good night.
Bon voyage. Release me from your mortal coil.
What? I don't have any mortal coils.
I'm going to secrete myself down your shaft.
Right.
What the? Oh, wait a minute.
What's wrong?
Yeah, sorry, I just realised that we had a mishap, which you might notice. There's a train in the middle of the train.
It's a DPU.
Oh, there's another one that Heljan did a great model, the Class 128.
DPU.
Yeah, the diesel.
I'm thinking American is distributed power units. Where
no, diesel parcel unit.
All right.
Deep protein universal.
No.
Oh, there it is.
Zoe, could I pass you this?
You could.
Very carefully. Right, and don't break that one, Craig.
I didn't break my last one.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, that's unusual for you. Valley's 56XX. Yeah, oh yeah, the Class 16. That's another good one. Yeah, and that's the thing. Heljan have done some great models, and let's not forget that. I think sometimes people form opinions about the models, not based on their own experience, but because some YouTuber told them, "Oh, they're selling us garbage."
YouTubers are rubbish.
Yeah.
Disregard all of them.
I wouldn't trust them.
No, bastards.
Yeah. Oh, we just add that angle of the dangle to the breed that is true. And as I said before, fire safety. I'm not leaving until the show's over, because otherwise I'd have to stop the trains. See you later, Craig. So Craig is now leaving the building. As I said before, you don't watch Craig, you just witness him. Questions will be asked later on. Statements will be taken. trying to look for a locomotive that I don't really run. What can I want? I've run that recently. I can't have run all these recently. It's just not possible. What's this? Ooh. And yes, in case anybody's wondering, that is the Bellerophon I don't know, EP sample. It's a functioning EP. Well, you can see it's functioning because it's going round. Yes, it is the KR Models one. No, I don't know when they're going to reach the shops. Please stop asking me. I honestly don't know. But it came into my possession, I got to keep it, so I'm running it. Yeah, Valley's 56XX, you and me both. I say I've found several models at the bottom of crates I forgot I had bought. Yeah, I've done that. I've been going through boxes of stuff and then found models in boxes that I'd accidentally put into deep storage. I dread to think somewhere underneath all of where you are, there's so many, well, there's boxes for everything, and I suspect that probably at least one wagon somewhere, not a locomotive, but one wagon that has probably accidentally been deep filed and will not be found until such times as I pass away and somebody has to go through all this stuff and deal with it. I'm looking for a locomotive for this track. I'm really struggling. Oh, I've done that with records. Valley 56XX. Bought 90312 War Department Austerity, put it in the crate and found another one. Oops. I've done that with records. Like, oh yeah, this is a great album. I remember I was looking for it, but I forgot that I'd bought it and found it. And you go to file it on the shelf, and there it is. There's another copy. We're actually about to put on the Heljan Class 02, not the Shunter, the Steam version. It's another model I really like that I must admit, I think some other YouTubers were unfair on it. I actually, again, I think it's a really great model. Flymo Chairman 1 says, I bought my first record from a record shop in 30 years plus last week too. I still occasionally buy vinyl records. Oh, in Sucky Hall Street in Glasgow. Oh, that's where Billy Connolly, live from Sucky Hall Street. I think that's included the When in Rome sketch. So we're just receiving word that Game Hammer Classic Gaming has begun their stream. So just got time for me to say, you guys take great care of yourself, and we'll be back on Friday with a video. I can't remember what it is actually, to be honest. I've got such a buffer. I probably filmed it a month ago, but there will be a video. It'll be a good one. And next Monday we'll be back. Hopefully normal service will resume. It's been an interesting weekend, one which let's hope we can put behind us. I'm sure there'll be something else comes up, some other scandal in model railway world.